They call it the bio bug. And what it is a car. It's a new little car. I think it's only a 2 or 3 seater. British engineers have come up with it. And basically, they have made this fuel that they call biogas, which is produced from human waste from the sewage works of the area. And believe it is a viable alternative to electric vehicles. The excrement flushed down the lavatories of 70 homes, is enough to power the car for 10,000 miles. I think that's pretty amazing. It's been used in the past, apparently, but this is Britain's first car to run on this gas completely without performance being reduced. It's basically a conventional VW Beetle is what it looks like. It's a 2-liter engine, and it can get up to 114 miles an hour. He says Mohammed Sadiq, who is part of Genco, which developed the prototype, said that the drivers will not know the difference between this little car and cars that run on gasoline or electricity. He says previously the gas has not been clean enough to fuel motor vehicles. I wonder how they figured that out. However, the new BioBug drives just like any car, and it's a sustainable fuel. Isn't that the truth? He says it is the most sustainable car around. That's his belief. It can use unleaded gasoline if you run out of this biogas, and will switch to that at that point. 18 million cubic meters of biogas is produced from human waste every year at Wessex Water's sewage treatment in Avonmouth, Bristol, and that is where they are getting the excrement flushed to turn into biogas. Before any of the gas, the methane gas that they actually use, can be used to power the vehicles, it has to undergo upgrading, where carbon dioxide is removed to improve performance, and will also keep the green people who are concerned about carbon dioxide off their backs as well. I think perhaps this company, Genco, maybe should set up shop in Washington, D.C., because I think they could make a lot of these little biobugs here using the biogas. Also, across seas, interesting story coming out of Kenya, which had quite a bit of trouble back in 2007. They had a presidential election that many people thought was rigged. They had many periods of violence. 500,000 people were displaced. About 10,000 were killed, and things were pretty hectic for quite a while. Things have stabilized a little bit, but in the past couple of years they've been working on a new constitution. This President Mwai Kibaki, who many say rigged the election. And basically their biggest issue with this new constitution that has gotten many other European countries and America, trying to get over there to sway them, is nothing like freedom of speech or the right to keep and bear arms or not, freedom of the press. What their big concern is to make sure that abortion is legal in Kenya. And unfortunately, the preliminary results of this initial assessment of their new constitution is that it will become law, that abortion will be legal. What's interesting is that 70% of voters voted for the new constitution, but I guess the only issue right now is that their constitution is based on Sharia law. Muslims account for only 12% of the nation's population. Christians account for over 70%. But basically the people in power are of Sharia law and are Muslim and believe that abortion is an acceptable way of life. The old constitution forbade abortion except to save the life of the mother. Being prodded by Western European countries as well as America, they convinced these representatives to change that wording, how they use words, to abortion for the sake of the health, quote-unquote health of the mother, which has been broadly interpreted around the world to mean any kind of health, medical health, psychological health, emotional health, spiritual health, sexual health, you name it, you can have an abortion. That's basically what has led to abortion being so widespread here. The new constitution also permits abortion, quote, if any other written law permits it, which opens it up to be even more pervasive, and that creates an environment where taking it to the courts for revision or any legal issues will be very hard to overcome with that particular phrase. Obviously, a lot of the Christians in Kenya are upset. As I said, a majority of people in Kenya are Christian, and they are trying to find different routes that could plausibly change what's happened here, because the Constitution has been approved. I guess there's a few more minor legal procedures and signings and things like that. The United States spent $23 million supporting the new Constitution, flying some NGOs over there and giving them the support they need to to implement the Constitution, to come up with the legalese and the writing of it. So, interestingly enough, President Biden was one of the people that traveled to Kenya to help inaugurate their new Constitution, and saying that it would allow money to flow more easily if they had this type of Constitution from foreign aid treasuries. Kenya is an example of the international pressure on developing countries. A lot of Christians are upset about this, as I said. It's interesting that the famous words of nation building that Bush had, people hated that term, and nation building was an evil thing. But apparently it's okay for the left to nation build, especially when it means they can use money and power to push forward a leftist agenda, including very liberal abortion laws in Kenya. You're listening to the Amy McManus Show. Welcome back to the Amy McManus Show. Some news out of San Diego, California. This comes from LifeSite News. Another abortionist is being charged with some pretty heavy issues. A guy named Andrew Rutland, who was an abortionist, is being charged with the homicide death of a girl named Ying Chen. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office has reclassified her death, reclassified it as a homicide. They did this in June. His hearing before the medical board, his revocation hearing before the medical board, is scheduled for February of 2011. That seems like a long ways away. Rutland had committed what's called a questionable second trimester abortion. Second trimester abortions are legal in most states of the Union, on a girl named Ying Chen at a location that was described as dirty, where unlicensed acupuncture was occurring. And he apparently administered an overdose of lidocaine, failed to recognize the symptoms of her overdose, and this girl went into cardiac arrest. He and his staff were untrained and unequipped to handle the medical emergency. And there was a significant delay, quote unquote, in contacting 911. She finally was transported to a local hospital where she died a few days later. It was originally classified as an accidental death. However, this guy's had a long history of disciplinary issues and other problems. His medical license was already revoked in 2003 for severing a baby's spinal column during a forceps delivery, and then lying to the parents by telling them that their baby suffered a stroke. The baby later died. How come it's not surprising that a man who performs abortions would perhaps be a little bit careless when it comes to the live wanted births that he is attending? That doesn't seem strange to me. His license was reinstated in 2007. He was placed on a 5-year probation with some restrictions that he had to be supervised under another supervision. However, last October, an organization reported that Rutland was violating his probation by engaging in a solo practice of medicine at an abortion clinic in Chula Vista. And they asked, people have been asking the California Medical Board to investigate that and demand his license be revoked. Finally, in November of 2009, an inspector from the California Medical Board did go to try to inspect his stock of drugs and the cleanliness and his records, but he was refused access by this guy's staff. So the medical board thought maybe that was maybe a red flag.